So thank you very much for being here for the first Wolters Kluwer Fireside Chat. So we're delighted to have Jeri Williams with us today. And we've got Neil Parsons, our MD from Wolters Kluwer as well. So what I'll do now is just hand over to Neil and Jeri for just some quick introductions.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks very much. Hand over in my case, the less glamorous one. Appreciate that. I'm looking forward to having a chat today, Jeri. I thought we'd start with a couple of introductions and then sort of dive into it a little bit, right? So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Neil Parsons. I'm the managing director of Wolters Kluwer in the UK. And for those of you that don't know Jeri, I'll let her introduce yourself. But you must have been under a rock for a while. So, Jeri, over to you.
Thanks. Well, today I'm an honorary Wolters Kluwer person with my branded hoodie, which I love. Thank you. So yeah, Jeri Williams. I own Smooth accountancy practice in the UK and the UAE, and I also run the Accountants Wealth Academy, which is a membership group for accountants and bookkeepers that want to grow their practices.
Well, thanks, Jeri. Like I said, it's great to invite you on today and have a chat for 20 minutes, half an hour. You scaled a business in the UK and then now the Middle East and then the Accountants Wealth Academy. And then we've now got an AI venture out there. You must be extremely busy. The broad topic of the webinar for me today is extremely broad, right? We're going to have a chat about cloud accounting. I feel like maybe 2013's just called and asked for its webinar back because we've been talking about cloud accounting for a decade, right? I think it's a really broad topic, right? But what I wanted to start with, first of all, which is probably closest to my heart, is cloud has obviously enabled you to scale and enabled you to grow. But without the people in the practice, it'd all be for nothing anyway, right? So what I'm quite interested to understand is actually to start by telling me a little bit about how you've grown, but what the people in the organisation are like, and how cloud's helped them really.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, when I started, it was just me, and I wasn't using the cloud at all. I was using desktop software, a variety of software, kind of whatever clients wanted, and I just used, I just used whatever they wanted. As I grew the business and started taking on more clients and then needed staff, we started to hear about the cloud and I think we were actually quite late adopters. I mean, we moved fully onto the cloud, I think about 6 years ago. But at that point, a lot of people had already fully embraced it. So we moved fully onto the cloud, became like a zero only practice in terms of bookkeeping the bookkeeping software we were using. And then that's then kind of progressed further and now it's embedded fully in our culture because our staff are kind of cloud experts. They also benefit because of fully flexible working. So it impacts kind of every aspect of what we do. And I don't know if consciously I would have thought that's all to do with the cloud, but when you think about it, it is really, because being able to offer fully flexible working, being able to grow a team of trusted kind of experts is all based around us using the cloud fully. So it feels like we've always been a digital practice, but I think in reality, it's been a journey to get us to where we are now.
Amazing. And obviously then setting up the business over in Dubai and looking at offshoring and doing all sorts of stuff like that. I'm presuming none of that would have been possible without connectivity and mobility within the workforce, right? Something which I'm sure will resonate with everybody that's on the webinar today, and something I hear a lot when I go and speak to a lot of our customers, is that talent in the accountancy industry is really scarce, but once you've then found the right person for the business, it's keeping them in the business and keeping them motivated. Do you have not a playbook for that you could share, but I'd imagine that the tenure in the business is good and people are staying within Smooth and it's not just cloud related, but what would you do to sort of validate why that's a good, why people are hanging around in the business, hanging around, the wrong thing to say. Why people enjoy working so well within Smooth?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, being completely honest, I don't think working for my practice is for everyone. I think, if you don't want to have to work kind of extremely hard at certain points of the year when we're busy and then kind of take your foot off and be able to work a lot less hours and things when we're quiet, say over summer, if that's not for you, then smooth is not for you. So that's just me being brutally honest. Like you need to go and get like a 9 to 5 from the office, timesheet kind of based practice. We are not that. We have a huge amount of trust in our staff. We trust them fully that they are grown-ups and they know what's expected of them and they know how best to deliver that. And I think that helps a lot with staff retention, building that trust. And we're very open and honest before people take the job with us. Like, it is a high pressure role. It's not an easy job at all, but it's a much more grown up way of working. This kind of, I'm not going to monitor, the time you're spending, where you're doing it. All I'm going to monitor is your output. And that is a really grown up way of working. And I think that's helped us to retain staff, giving that really high level of trust.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's tons of books written on motivating and keeping people motivated in the workplace. But what comes out number one in everything is trust, right? And the freedom to take a risk and be trusted in what you're doing. So a question sort of allied to that, really, when you're talking about trust, right? But why would you say, or what would you say the majority of your customers come to Smooth for? Are your clients there to solve a problem, or are they there to build a partnership, or are they there just to get their tax return done as cheaply and quickly as possible?
So we're kind of more of a frills-based accounting firm. What I mean by that is we are not cheap when it comes to fees, but we also deliver a really high level of service. So when clients come to us, or I guess at pre-qualification stage, we're quite clear about that. We have minimum fees, and if what they're after is just a cheap and cheerful kind of churn style accountant, that's not us. So by the time they do actually kind of get to talk to us, or we get to talk to them, it's really about understanding what their goals are as business owners, because everyone that's a business owner has personal goals, and really your business is there to help you achieve those personal goals. So it's us trying to get to the bottom of that and really guide and advise them onto how to make whatever their goals are possible. So we find that a lot of clients come to us that maybe aren't getting that more high level service. And I honestly think as time goes on and AI starts to become more of a starts to become more prominent in businesses, that's where accountants are going to have to differentiate themselves, because just doing the simple filing or clicking the buttons or whatever is not going to be enough. So that's kind of what Smooth is like as a firm.
Yeah, and I read a quote yesterday. I'm sure you've seen it doing the rounds on LinkedIn around something like AI won't take over the job as an accountant, right? But it'll take over the firm that's not using it. And I think that's really true, right? I think we've been really lucky. I think we are really lucky, right? I think the industry we work in, accountancy, whether it's a vendor to an accountant in practice providing service, or a client needing those services, I think we've been really lucky as a profession over the last few years. I won't say we were bulletproof through COVID, but there was a lot worse off than us,
Mm-hmm.
And I know that. So I'm an accountant. If I go way back into my depths of time, I trained to become an accountant. Shout out to Brian Nutchins and Co. in Leigh-on-Sea, greatest accountancy firm in the world. Well, maybe the second one. Sorry, Jeri.
Yeah, well.
Where else to go with that? But I remember, my dad was an accountant. He told me that's a good profession to get into, because regardless if times are good or bad, everybody needs one.
Mm-hmm.
But like the profession's moved on immeasurably over the last few years, right? And I think we've gone through that round of compliance is dead. There's no money in compliance, right? Compliance is what gets you in the door, and doing it well and offering the right services there. But prior to the latest hyperbole and AI, we talked a lot about advisory. Do you find that, if we get back onto cloud for a minute, do you find that being able to access the customer's data or client's data in real time using cloud, I mean, it's a loaded question, but allows you to provide better advisory services to the customer and in turn service.
It does, it absolutely does, but it requires a two-way partnership still. You know, the cloud is only as good as how it's being used. You know, like the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. That still applies, whether it's cloud or not cloud, right? So
Yeah.
it absolutely does give us the ability to have up-to-date data and therefore make much better informed business decisions and enable our clients to make those better decisions. So yeah, it does help a lot with advisory. It just requires still that you work with your clients and you work together in partnership to make it as easy and stress-free as possible to keep everything up to date and keep the data accurate.
So do you think now that there's a cloud bookkeeping solution is more easily accessible, let's call it bookkeeping for the time being, cloud bookkeeping solution is more easily accessible to your clients, that there's a misconception that they don't need you as much?
Yeah, definitely. And I was talking about this the other day. You know, the amount of people, I'm sure people who are on this call right now have had this where they go, well, I can just do the VAT returns because, you know, Zero, the QuickBooks does it for you, Zero does it for you, just click the button. And you're like, no, it doesn't. You're like, no, it doesn't. But someone's put a laughing emoji. But, you know, it's true that people have this misconception that like cloud accounting means that we're not needed as much potentially, certainly on the bookkeeping side. And actually, I do understand because when I started my career in accountancy, you know, all of the desktop software that we were using, it it was built for accountants. You know, it was not built for customers at all. And we had clients using desktop software, but they needed loads of training. You know, again, I'm sure people on this call have remember like going out to clients and sitting with them and training on this desktop software. And they still didn't really 100% get it. And I used to say to people, it's because it's built for accountants, but cloud software is built for customers. It's not built for accountants. And that's where I think the software has changed and become user friendly to the end user. And because
Sure.
of that, now customers think, well, I'll just do it myself. And it's like, but you still don't know how to do it. Right? So
Yeah.
you don't understand, like it may be easier to use, maybe you're more user friendly, but you still don't 100% know how to do it. So we still, you know, we still need it.
Long live the accountant, absolutely. I think so that's their selection criteria really is you know what's easiest to use, what does Dave down the pub use,
Yeah.
what's cheapest, you know, what will get the job done.
Yeah.
Isn't always the right way of going things. Do you find that you're becoming as a practice, I mean, I'm sure you do, right, have a service line almost, which is software selection, and how do you go about recommending the right solution to your customers?
Yeah, well, we became a zero only practice a few years ago. We were pretty much like 80% zero anyway at that point. And we just made the decision like, actually, these last ones that we've got that are on other softwares, like they can either switch to zero or they can go somewhere else in a
Yeah,
nice way, because it's not fair on my team to stretch people into different softwares that they're not 100% used to using, or they don't feel like they're an expert. By making us a zero only practice, or you know, whatever, some of my academy members, they're like QuickBooks only or whatever it is that you are, by kind of narrowing it down and going, we only work with this software, means that your team know exactly what they're doing, which naturally makes you more efficient and better at the job. So it's in your client's interest that you don't do a kind of any software, whatever approach, I think, because you may think you're good enough on the other ones, but you'll be as good as the one that you use most of the time. That's just naturally what happens. So, yeah, I think for us, we don't give clients options as to what software they use. Like, if you want to come with us, it's zero. It's the same with the UAE. You know, the most common UAE software is Zoho Books. And we don't use it in the UAE. We use Zero because that's what we've been using in the UK, and my UK team support my UAE team. So, you know, we've just stuck with the same one.
so you've enabled the customer to use the software in the right manner. You're using one single solution, which makes you more efficient. If we then like set the robots on it, tell me a little bit about what you think about AI, what's happening with AI in the market at the moment, and where that will help us all retire early.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, AI is super exciting. Like, I love it. I'm a little bit obsessed. That doesn't mean I'm particularly good at it, just like to point out. So, although I run Smooth AI, a membership to help business owners with AI, I really just do the marketing for that, and I'm learning myself. But the other people involved in that business venture very much understand AI and its uses. So I'm picking up, I'm learning as I'm going along, but yeah, I mean, it's already helping massively with smooth accounting, us, the use of AI, and I see it helping more and more as time goes on and really revolutionizing the way we do things. I think what's going to become apparent and where the shift's going to take place is the focus on the human element. Like, I recommend that accountancy practice owners, if you're not already, that you are learning how to use AI and embracing it as much as possible in your business, because what you can then do is focus on the customer service element, make sure your delivery is as perfect as it can be from a customer service point of view, and everything behind the human kind of interface needs to be as efficient as possible, and that's where AI comes in. So it's going to enable your team to deliver the best service to customers if you can get on board with it. And if you don't, that's where certain companies are going to really fly, certain accountancy firms, because they're going to be able to deliver, all singing, all dancing customer service, which is what clients are going to want, and they're not going to have to worry about the back office stuff.
Great, I think that's spot on. I think something you mentioned earlier on, which is an old adage, right? Garbage in, garbage out. We talk to a lot of our customers about how important the quality of the data within your practice is. Because as well as being able to use something like using AI or robotics to run repetitive process for you, I see a big use case in AI to spot opportunities for you within the data. Of course, the data needs to be clean in the first place, but to be able to pull a report out of a system, or to be alerted to the fact that these 18 clients within my client base all fit a certain criteria, would benefit from this piece of advice, and in turn see your fees rise, right? Being able to pick those opportunities historically, prior to AI and prior to cloud, arguably, is pretty difficult. You've got to try and find 6 or 7 different ports, stitch them all together. So having everything in one single database, having the data clean and tidy, I can see a couple of people in this list who remain nameless that I can say have got fabulous quality of data in their practice, and I know are really leveraging that opportunity. So you're right. Let's make sure it's clean and tidy and keep it right in the first place, and then we might be able to get something out of it.
And also, I think we're going to do another fireside chat, aren't we, on AI, like further down the line.
We'll dive into that a bit more. I know when I use something like ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn post or something like that, I've got to remember to check it though, because all the words have got Z's in them. It's quite Americanized.
They have,
so you can get caught out as well, right?
Yeah, you can.
So what else do I want to talk about? So we talked a little bit about AI, we talked about your clients. So on the face of things, Jeri, you fly in, the business is in great condition, you're giving the best customer service in the world, everything's on the cloud, right? But it must come with some challenges. So I'm sure everybody would be interested to know, like, pitfalls, or like where you've gone down one avenue and quickly reversed out and started again. Is there anything in particular which stands out as a challenge you've had, either because or not because of using the cloud solutions?
Yeah, I mean, initially the challenge was switching fully to the cloud, because our IT system was set up with server and all that jazz, and it's not easy to make that transition. That was really hard and stressful on my team, and I knew I wanted to do it for kind of the benefit of the business long term, but that was really hard going. I remember that period of time very well, and it was so challenging, and no one had enough time. Everyone was trying to learn new system. Like, it was just really, really hard. So that initially, and I also think there's this kind of competitive, not even competitive, but this worry about keeping up with this app stack, and which accountants are using this piece and that piece, and there's a new shiny bit of software, I should use it. There's a new thing that does that, I should use it. Like, every time there's a new thing that comes out, the kind of draw to want to use it because it's shiny and new and it does this. And it's like, okay, my software doesn't do that, but now this piece does do that. So there's like, but I was fine. I never missed not having that. But now I think I need it because now this software does it. Like, so you just kind of, I think, mentally exhausted by trying to keep up with the changes in software and all the new stuff coming out all the time. I mean, there's like thousands of apps now that integrate with Xero and QuickBooks and whatever.
So what's the message there then? Keep it simple and keep to the objective.
Absolutely keep it simple. I've always said that, you know, it's one of our company values anyway. I really try to keep things simple. I don't like to have too many products. I just feel like it's just too complicated. And when you want to grow a business and grow it fast, if you don't have a simple structure or setup, it makes it so much harder to grow. So the simpler I can keep everything within my whole business, the better. So definitely keep it simple. I would say if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's the thing. Like I always say to people, software doesn't solve process like problems. It doesn't solve internal problems. Like you could have a spreadsheet, you know, doing if your process is rubbish and you get a piece of software and put that process onto the software, then it's still a rubbish process, right? So, you know, if you've got gaps in what you're doing, say for example, you're onboarding a new client and you've got step by step by step and you've got it written down on a bit of paper. I mean, that's almost where you want to start. Like, does this work? Does every single step in this process work? Are there any leaks? Are we going to miss something? Software will make you more efficient and possibly slightly more accurate because you're less likely to miss things. But the actual steps involved are whatever you put into it, right? So I just think keep it simple, definitely. Make sure you have good process. Don't rely on software to make you better as a company. Like it will save you time and probably money, but it won't necessarily make your processes better.
Yeah, that's spot on. I also think we're all really guilty in most cases. I know I am if I'm buying anything on behalf of the business. I know you'll probably all have felt this, that sort of paralysis or letting perfect get in the way of good.
Oh, 100%.
You know, so, and there's a lot of times, you know, I've been in this industry, I suppose, for all my life, and the amount of times that you can get stuck on this tiny thing that one customer needs from the software, which you could just do it on Excel, right? Because it's one customer, right? But what about the other 1,499 of them that this solves the problem for? And I think there's a lot of that in the market. I heard something the other day from a guy called Oscar Torres who did a keynote speech for us. It sounds more glamorous than it is, but we were at an event in Athens, and two things he said, right?
Why don't I get invited to those ones now?
We're working our way up, yeah. But the two things he said which really resonated that I took away from it. One is that all industries, not just accountancy, are littered with software solutions looking for a problem to fix, rather than starting with the problem and engineering the solution. You know, so it is easy to run away with 110 different features when you only really needed 5, you know? And then the second thing he said, which my team in the UK are sick to hearing from me now, is that nobody buys a 5mm drill bit. Everybody buys a 5mm hole, right? And you know what that says to me is that you get back to the problem statement, understand what it is you need to fix, and then engineer the solution. Often when we go in to see any size of practice, you know, the first hour or so of the discovery session is the best one. It's like, we don't need to look at the software, right? Just ignore the software. We all know it's going to fill a tax return in, right? But look, let's get some sticky notes out. Let's get the whiteboard out. Let's fix the problem, and then find the solution that fixes that problem. You know, so yeah, interesting. Sorry, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there.
No, it's true though. I think it's really true, and also just people are always trying to keep up. They feel this pressure. You know, we've got social media now. Everybody's online. Everyone's seeing what everyone else is doing, and they're using that. Or maybe I should use that. And you know, and I just think you just need to do what's right for your business. And quite often when I'm coaching other accountants, they go, "Oh, Jeri, can you tell me how I don't know, what your onboarding process is?" And I go, "Don't worry about what mine is. What does yours need to be?" Right? I can tell you what I do, but you don't necessarily need to copy it. And I say it all the time because people never say, "How should I create my onboarding process?" They say, "Jeri, how are you onboarding clients? What are you charging, Jeri, for that? You know, how are you recruiting? Instead of saying, what should I be charging? And then we go, okay, well, let's look at that for you and your business and what you're doing. So I think it's just really important to like you said, even sticky notes, whatever it is, whatever method, just think about your business, your goals, what you're trying to do, and try and like block out everything else that's going on.
Yeah, it's difficult, right? It is difficult though, because we live in a Me Too society now, don't we? And to
Yeah.
try and understand what everybody else is up to, but it's good to learn from people as well, right? So
Oh, for sure.
take it as a compliment that people want to copy what you do. And I think,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm glad, because
um,
obviously I partner with various companies and I'm very happy to promote them. So yeah, do exactly what I say and use what I use.
but we've gone pretty full circle there. What we've come back to now is that you need to focus on the people, focus on trust, focus on building value, focus on good service. And then the rest of it all comes with the value proposition, right? So we're sort of approaching half an hour, which I think we pegged for a little bit of a conversation this morning. I've got a couple more questions. Um, we had a chat the other day about service. We talk about service again. Obviously, being over in Dubai, I spent some time in Dubai last year. Holiday though, not living. It's too warm to live there for me. But it was absolutely standout how good the service was.
Yeah.
Right, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's because it's such a competitive market. There's 600 five-star hotels. There's no labour shortage. So my question, I suppose, is that, how do you, service aside, which is a given, is there any other way of being able to differentiate to win your business in the market at the moment, do you think?
I mean, at the moment, I'd even say being a high quality firm is a little bit detrimental because of the cost of living crisis. We've certainly seen a loss of clients recently that we've never really experienced so many in such a short space of time. And really, it's because people are looking for cheap fees, and you can't deliver high customer service for cheap fees. I mean, you can try, but you're gonna, end up having a breakdown or something. So I think it depends on the economy, the kind of economic climate as well. Dubai is thriving financially, so people have got the money to spend and they expect the customer service to meet that spend. If you're in Dubai, you've got money if you're there, right? So, you don't. People aren't looking for a cheap option, really. Most people, I mean, in Dubai. In the UK, there's a difference. Some people are, some people are not. So I think it depends who your target market is, and standing out customer service wise. I think marketing is really where it's my passion, and what I've always kind of really focused on is where you can stand out. But actually,
Sure.
in terms of delivery, I don't know what else other than customer service, because any accountants can do the compliance side, or you'd like to think
Yeah.
you could do the compliance side. So
With some good software.
exactly, with some good software. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think standing out, definitely in marketing, you need to be doing something different. You can't be
Yeah.
doing the same stuff that other people are doing, because you're just
So it's
getting.
that value proposition, really, isn't it? In my opinion, I think everybody's willing to pay for what they see value in.
Yep.
And the minute the value proposition goes, then that's when it's a race on price, a race to price. Okay, look, I've got a couple more really. We've talked about challenges, we've talked about how you differentiate. I'm going to sum up in a minute that we actually did at some point here talk about cloud accounting. But lastly, and this is related to cloud accounting, we're seeing a little bit more of a trajectory towards more offshoring and outsourcing. We haven't had this conversation with you whether or not you make use of that, but how do you see the market at the moment from an offshoring point of view?
Yeah, I'm just seeing it become more and more common now, and I don't know if it's because of the struggle to recruit good staff in the UK. I feel like it is hard, and it has been hard for a few years now, and most accountants that I speak to say the same thing. So I don't know if it's because of that or what it is, or it could be because cost of living crisis, staff want more wages in the UK, clients don't want to pay anymore, so you're being squeezed literally in the middle as a small business owner. So it could be because of that, because it's more cost effective to offshore. We have dabbled in it a little bit, not massively, but it has kind of come about via opening up in the UAE and kind of sharing resource from both companies. And I think if done right, it can be very effective. What I think you need to be careful of is obviously quality of work, and technical knowledge, obviously with UK standards and what you're working to, and also that, you know, you're being fair if you are using offshorers. You know, we're very keen to not, you know, exploit anyone, and I'm sure nobody on the call would want to do that, or anybody that ends up watching this would intentionally want to do that. But I just think you have to be very careful and make sure, because some of these firms that, you know, you go to a firm that does offshoring and then they're doing whatever, you know, with their team and stuff. So I think you have to do your research, make sure you're using a reputable person or firm, and then yeah, I think it can be quite effective.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to sum up a little bit here because the webinar or the chat today was going to be about cloud accounting. So let's go from the start. So by using the cloud in your practice, you feel that you've got a more engaged set of colleagues who feel empowered to work from various locations at various times of the day to suit their lifestyle, and in turn, you see a much better return in terms of tenure, right? And happy, lovely people working under the Smooth brand.
Yeah.
We then talked a little bit about how we all need to be wary of the fact that your client and Dave down the pub don't think they can just run off and do their own VAT return, right? I do my tax return, but I don't get it. I always make sure my accountant checks it, if I'm honest. And
Yeah.
I'm part qualified, but my grey matter is not as good as it used to be. But also, there's bound to be stuff that I've missed that I could have claimed or I could have made use of. So let's try and, as a group, make sure we stamp out that common misconception that Xero is just going to do my accounts for me and I don't need my fully qualified, been through all the years of training accountant, and we don't always listen to Dave down the pub, right? And then what do we take into consideration about when we're looking to purchase software or bring accounting software into the practice? Don't underestimate how hard it is at first and the migration, right? And in turn, in order to make that migration as smooth as possible, again, looking at the list of participants on this call, I can think of a couple of people who do make migrating data easy. It's because they keep it clean, because they constantly monitor it. I always say, when I go and see some of our customers, in my current role or previous role, was you need to try and make everybody in the practice the custodian of the data, right? Because from day two, it degrades. And it's that rate of degradation is then impairing the business to make decisions. So keeping things clean and being prepared and getting ready for the migration is an important part. And then really, it was a bit of a rubbish question to ask you how to differentiate yourself from the competitor, but don't talk about service. Because ultimately, right, people buy off trust, people buy off people, and getting a good service is good. So I'm hoping that that's given everybody I bet we've not told anybody anything they don't already know, but good to bring it back to front of mind thinking when we're looking after our customers. Lastly, and this is just from me, I want your number one like golden nugget for running an accountancy firm in the UK.
You didn't say you were going to spring that on me. Like, I was not prepared for that question.
Listen, it's live, and it's live.
I know, on the spot.
I'll tell you, let's rephrase it. What's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
Oh gosh.
It's probably hard.
I don't know if it's necessarily advice that I have, but it's something that I have learned the hard way over the years. And I actually mentioned this the other day, is that every decision that I make has to be for the best interest of the business and ultimately the team, and not any one individual person, including me, right? Because it's very easy to make emotional decisions when you are a small business owner, because everything is emotive. It's your business, it's your livelihood, and you become friends with, you know, people you work with and all those kind of things, and customers become friends and everything. And it's very, very difficult to kind of lead with your head, not your heart, but it's super important that you do, because as you get bigger and problems change and you have really hard decisions to make, you have to take that step back and kind of really make the best decision for the business, not emotionally maybe what you want to do.
Good. Thanks, Jeri. I think that's probably a good mantra for life, not just business as well. We can open up to a couple of questions here in the chat. If anybody's got any questions, maybe want to pop them in the chat. I'm not seeing any going along throughout.
There is one in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one from Anonymous, so they don't want to be named. I think this is around the people management side of things, working sort of in various locations. How do you build that trust and make sure that your staff don't take the Mickey? I'm going to say Mickey. And how do you identify that and deal with it?
Do you know what? It is really difficult. And I think the people management side of having a business, I've always said, is the bit that I find the hardest and probably enjoy the least, if I'm being completely honest. And most accountants are similar because we're very analytical. We're happy to sit and crunch the numbers. That's the career we got into. But, when it comes to then managing people, is very, very difficult. So I don't have a magic answer to that. I think that, give people your trust until they give you a reason not to. It's a two-way thing. You have to be fair. I try to be fair always with my staff. That's not easy, but it's very important to be seen to be fair as a leader, and I never favor anybody. I'm very fair, and I lead with integrity. I always try. I don't always make the right decisions, but I always have the best intentions and lead with integrity. And I think if you do that, you will hopefully build a workforce that you can trust. There'll always be the odd one or two that maybe doesn't go to plan, but as long as it's not necessarily a reflection of you and how you've been leading, then I think you just have to take it on the chin and learn from it and move on.
Yeah, I think to build on that, I think you sort of got to start with you a little bit, right? So, you can talk a lot about building the right culture in the business. You can talk about building the right levels of trust in the business, but a lot of it, I feel you can't always be. It depends what we mean here by taking the Mickey, by the way, right? But I think sometimes you can have a perception as a business leader that just because you're not seeing what that person's doing immediately, that they aren't doing anything, and it's it's almost like a trust exercise for yourself, really. I've led remote teams and remote sales teams a lot in my life, and from my office here in Chester, the leaderboard or the KPIs in the business could be telling me that the guy who lives up in Scotland that I'm not round the corner from, who's not too high up the leaderboard, is watching Sky Sports News all day. But unless you actually take the time to go and understand what that person's up to and what their motivations are and realize actually how I could have supported them better, it was probably more on me than it was on my perception that he was taking the Mickey, so.
Take ownership, you need to always look inwards. And I think that's the same with clients as well. When we lose clients and we think we've done nothing wrong, we must have. I always take that responsibility, even if you don't like it, even if you think the client is a pain or they're being rude or unreasonable. I'm like, we need to take that responsibility, because the minute you take responsibility for there being an issue, you can start to move forward and fix it, right?
Absolutely. It's good. Listen, we've got a lot deeper than cloud accounting. This is amazing. We're getting into life skills. Good. All right. Look, I can't see any more questions in the chat. We've been running for sort of 40 minutes or so. Jeri, it's been an absolute pleasure to have a chat with you this afternoon. I'm looking forward to many more. Steph, you've done a great job putting on the first of our Fireside Chat series, and I'm looking forward to speaking to somebody else soon. And Jeri, we're going to talk again in the future about AI and something that's close to everyone's heart. So from me, thank you very much. And for everybody listening, we appreciate you spending some time.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jeri, for joining us, and Neil for your time.
Thanks for having me.